Welcome back. Well, this is where it all happens, guys. This is my workbench, which is about 1 meter by 50 centimeters. It's tucked away in the back of my drive-through garage, just to show that there really doesn't need to be a dedicated space for modeling. You can tuck yourself away at the back of a garage like I have and still get some very good time on your bench and some really good results as well. Now, I put here on my self-healing mat a selection of tools that I think every modeler should start with. What we have is a side cutter, which will help you remove the parts from the sprues, a little hobby knife here with a number 10 blade I think I have in there at the moment, which is used to scrape off any faults or defects from the kit parts, some super glue and some Tamiya fence cement. That will be used to put your parts together. Now, I picked up this particular super glue is a gel type, which I prefer to the more water-based or viscosity type paint. Just find that it's a little easier to place parts without getting leaks all over your fingers and all over your model as well. If you're going to build a lot of scale races or aeroplanes, then a real good decal solution is in order. I use Mr. Mark Softer. What these solutions do is help the decals contour to panel lines and compound curves. So they're really good to get them to settle down nice and evenly. Now, when it comes to a selection of paints, I use pretty much all type of different paint manufacturers, but for beginners I always recommend Tamiya lacquers and acrylic paints. They're just very easy to use. All my first few kits, auto kits, were sprayed straight from the can, very similar can to what you see here of Tamiya lacquers. They give a hard, durable finish straight from the can, and the results always look great. For my interiors, I always use Tamiya acrylics where I can, in line with also some Gunze acrylics. The acrylics come in little jars like this, so they're great to just pour straight into your airbrush with some Tamiya thinners, just to get them to that milky consistency, which is really good for airbrushing. Talking of which, I use an Iwata HP C+. Now, this is a very good airbrush from Iwata. It's probably around about the middle line type airbrush. It's definitely not the best airbrush, but it's a good all-round workhorse. I've had this airbrush now for about three years or so, and it's coming up to its regular monthly cleanup. I always clean my airbrush straight after use, but I pull it apart about once a month just to get a really nice clean to it. You can maybe see some build-up of paint, old paint around the corners there. So maybe next time I pull one of these apart, I'll just demonstrate exactly how to do that and take a shot of the video while I'm doing it. Now, that's connected through that cable obviously to my air compressor. Now, if you're going to build a lot of models, it's always a good idea to get a good air tank like that, a compressor with an air tank. It just minimises the engine noise, especially if you have a young family like I do, who may be disturbed. Now, also on my workbench is a gas mask. I'm not lucky enough, I guess, to have a spray booth, but even then, I would still recommend that you would always use some kind of protection. Now, the paint fumes that we use in our modeling hobby can be rather toxic, especially with time, so even though you might not feel the effects of smelling all these fumes in, they will have a longing and lasting effect. So I can't emphasize how important it is to get some good protection. Make sure that the filters you use are compatible with the type of spray paint that you're going to use. There's no point wearing a dust mask, for example, if you're going to be spraying lacquers or even worse, some 2K clear. So make sure you get some good adequate protection where appropriate. And as you can see there, The most expensive item on my workbench would have to be the compressor and airbrush. Now, taking that out of the equation, you find that what is on my bench here would cost you around about, you know, the average cost of a kit. So when you do go out and buy your first kit, just think that whatever you buy, you know, if it's going to be a $40, $50 kit, you know, you realistically will need to spend almost that again just to get started. Now, obviously, that's a one-off purchase. So once you, you know, you have the basics, your second kit won't be as expensive, and you can start enjoying the hobby without having to fork out every time you go out to a model shop. Just to go through some of the other items on my workbench, which are not necessarily prerequisites to building your first model, but definitely come in handy. I mentioned the light bulbs, or have I? These two lights on my desk provide ample light for me to work under. I run them with natural daylight bulbs, so they give you a really nice sunlight type light, which is very important when you're working on you know, detail parts, especially miniatures. If you want to start painting miniatures and you don't have the luxury of painting during the day, then these your second best thing. You normally run 2 to 3 of these on my workbench. I guess I stare at a screen all day for my job, so maybe one would be enough for most people, but I find I sometimes struggle with 2 or 3. Also got some baby wipes here, and these are just lubricated wipes. Yeah, I'm getting so tired I can hardly speak now. But these wipes are very good just to, you know, quickly wipe up spills off your hand, so don't go forward and damage the rest of your models. Also on my bench here we have some cotton tips. I use those a lot for when I want to run washes, say in aircraft panel lines. Normally just dab those little cotton tips into some thinner and wipe off any excess. They also come in useful, very similar type thing for when you're doing panel lines on cars. I'll no doubt that in up and coming episodes you'll see me use some of those. These are little skewers that we use just to hold place. Like you notice some little blobs of blue tack. I normally use that just as I've done here, right next door, to hold just little pieces of parts to paint them without having to hold them and get all messed up. Now you'll notice that right next to that little piece of a cart actually is some old brushes that I keep handy. There's also some good brushes in there, but don't throw your old brushes out. They have a very unique role to play in scale modeling. There's a technique called dry brushing, which means exactly that, where you use your brush, almost wipe it completely dry to add effects to your models. You only ever really want to do that with an old brush, so keep your old brushes, they will come in handy. I've also got in here some bits and pieces. There's a nozzle there from an old Aztec. If you run an Aztec airbrush, send me a PM and may just give that to you as a gift. Some spare blades, drill bits, some scissors here which I use to cut out decals, the different sizes there. Some files. Now these are metal files. I bought these in a pack of 6, and they come in different shapes, which are really handy I find for you know, doing some of the coursework, just some of the prep work, where your fingers may not just get into little nooks and crannies. And you know, I think I paid something like $2 for this set. I highly recommend it if you find yourself, you know, they don't need to be the good quality stuff like you may buy if you're doing proper metal work, but as we're using styrene most of the time, or soft plastic, they do the job just as well. I've also got here some Araldite. Now I've had these tubed for years, so it just goes to show that it's not a necessity, but that it does come in handy from time to time. Now that's just a very strong type of glue.